Hi, everyone, and welcome to Special Simulcast, the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Criminally Good with Sherrie and Jen. Guys, thanks for stopping by, and let's talk about it. Who's our guest today?
We're going to welcome Donna Roman today to Criminally Good. We are talking about a lady with a massive career with law enforcement and then the continued work she's done after retiring. 30 years, retired captain, law enforcement out of New Jersey. From that point on, she got into making films. She's a published author. She's a podcaster. She's award winning with her films. I mean, and she's got all kinds of things out there. Her company's Blue Force Films. Uh, Beyond all that, she's a major victim advocate and she is a survivor of domestic violence. So that is a lot of what she promotes through what she's working on, her podcasting, her book. So she's telling the story, and it's a unique story because she is a domestic violence survivor from her father, who was also a constable in New Jersey. So, welcome, Donna. Welcome to Criminally Good.
Thanks, Jen. My pleasure to be here with you.
I want to start out here. Your dad was an Essex County constable, and he's also the source of your violence in your home that lasted for 30 years for you, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Um, Take me back to why you decided to get into law enforcement. What made you do that? Wanting to wear the badge?
Well, I was growing up as a youngster. I admired my dad. I thought he was my superhero. And it wasn't until later on in my adolescence that I discovered his dark side. So he always talked about the job, making arrests, and he was a role model for me for many years. And he did not want me to become a police officer. He said that it was a tough job and he thought that I had more skills and intelligence, but I just wanted to follow in his footsteps. As I said, I had admired him so much until I found out his dark side. But that did not deter me from entering the field of law enforcement because I knew that I could help others that might be, even at a very young age, I knew that I might be able to help others who might have a bad dad too.
Admirable, very admirable.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, some people would just wallow in the victimhood, but you said, no, I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it into something good. And you went 30 years on the job, left as the captain. You were overseeing patrol, domestic violence, response, and in service training. So, everything you've done in those 30 years, what do you think, what assignment had the biggest impact on you?
Leading an all-male police department was a great task when I became the captain. But I had worked with them in patrol. So I saw them achieve rank as I did. I knew they were quality officers. Some of the younger officers were resistant to my becoming the captain, although the mayor had agreed that I had the skill set. I did have to take them to task legally to get the promotion affirmed. But the greatest part of that was that I loved serving the community. I loved being in the street, in my police car, which was my shield of armor. I knew that, unlike in my household, no one was going to harm me in my car. And I saw the effects, the good effects that I had upon the community. I started out in the city of Newark as a civilian working 911 dispatch. And then I was in the recruit program. That recruit program phased out. And then I became a police officer with the Essex County Police, which was many cities and towns within the county of Essex. And I cut my teeth, living in a city of Newark. Was born and raised during the Newark riots. And I knew that, and it's not a chuckle that I'm doing, but it's almost like a reaffirmation that if I could withstand the criminal in my house, The street was easy.
Wow. That's a profound statement that you just made. Wow. And you wrote a book. You wrote your memoir, and it's called Battered Blue.
Yes.
So, as you're writing your memoir and working with authors, I know sometimes it's hard for them to get certain parts out, those dark parts. How about you? When you were writing about that, did you have to walk away? How did you get through it?
You hit it right on the head. I had to walk away. There were a series of events that happened while writing the book. COVID happened. And then I found out that my sibling died. I found out on Facebook. One of my siblings died. I have to be transparent about this. Um, my mother passed away in 1997, and she was abandoned by my siblings and her maternal family. My paternal family, I was already separated for them for years because my father cut off contact. So it was tumultuous during those years. But before my mom passed away, I asked her if there was anything she wanted me to do for her. I would make up with my siblings. I would do anything that she wanted me to do. And she wasn't able to speak because she had laryngeal cancer, but she was able to write.
Hmm.
And she wrote me a note one day, not in the moment that I asked her, but some days following as her health became grave. Her words were, "Tell my story." So I
Oh,
asked her, I said, "Your story?" And she made a motion like this, which meant ours. Because our story my story was her story in that home, and hers was mine. So it's a memoir that includes her handwritten diary so that she's present in the book.
That's
so
that's incredible. So
yeah, it is incredible. I'm just, wondering because you worked in domestic violence, but you experienced domestic violence and you write about it, you dress it. So did you, in looking back on your career, did you look at your job differently? Like I would assume there's a passion and my gosh, the empathy you can provide the victims from having to go through it yourself. It's like I'm not just telling you what I read the Tro guide. I'm telling you how I lived it.
Once again, you're spot on. Yeah, I mean, your intuitiveness as a former police officer is right there. I never told anyone about it throughout my entire career. No one knew. Not even my maternal and paternal families. They knew some things, but they had no idea what happened. After my brother left, at, and I was only 17 when he left, and then my sister left, it was just me. So I lived in that house that I was born for 37 years because I knew if I left, he would kill my mother. And
Mm.
on the job, I was the domestic violence liaison for the county, and I was a trainer with the Attorney General's office. Everyone was amazed at my intuitiveness and my knowledge about domestic violence. So keeping it a secret was because of many reasons. As police officers, we keep a lot of secrets because, especially as women, we don't want anyone to think that we're weak or that we wouldn't stand up for others, and that all the complications of disclosing secrets in any type of environment. So I just would say, well, I do a lot of reading, and I've seen domestic violence in my family, but I never said that I know about it because I'm a victim survivor, and I have been a bystander witness to what my siblings and my mother went through. And my superiors were happy about the fact that I was so knowledgeable because I took over the cases. I was the report writer in most times, or the reviewer, and helped the prosecution of the cases. And I also was the trainer for the domestic violence response teams. And I was on the governor's board for sexual assault and advocacy and working groups. So everyone just thought that I was very well rounded and enjoyed helping people, which were both true. But it wasn't until I retired and I self-produced my documentary, The Ultimate Betrayal, that the jaws started to drop around me, and people were kind of finger pointing, like, why didn't you tell us? And all the questions that I didn't want to hear. And so that in itself was kind of re-traumatizing, because I'm doing what I do and did what I did to protect my mother, to save us, and to let people know that even a sworn law enforcement officer who has the authority to make arrests and do good by her community had to choose saving her mom and herself overall.
Wow.
That was a little long-winded, but it kind of
and so I still
fantastic
don't understand. I'm still so confused that you ended up being in law enforcement with, your father being in law enforcement. Why go into something that you just didn't like who he was as a person, and saying, I'm going to go do the same thing? Doesn't that remind you of him every day when you went to work?
I would have to say you are right in your assumption about that, but I just feel as though, and I'm not a religious woman as much as I am one of spirit. And it had been a calling, because once I finished the academy and started working in the streets where I lived, I knew that I was in the right place. And that I could help people was the winner. My mother often would say that this is just an old wives' tale kind of story, but I'll just tell it. That when I was born, my Italian grandmother, who didn't speak English, saw the Madonna behind me. So they called me Donna. And my grandmother told my mom that I was meant for greatness and to help people. And my mom told me that story over and over. And I believe that to be true, because even to this day, all that I've been through, I know that I have purpose. And I know what my purpose is. And I think a lot of people go through life not knowing that.
Fantastic. I think your grandmother was spot on.
Yeah, she was. Yeah,
You definitely, you've been serving a higher purpose for quite a long time. You, and the book, of course, Battered Blue, and we're going to talk about the films in a little bit. But you've also been doing some podcasting there in New Jersey. I know you've got the Jersey Beat, and then you're writing with the New Jersey Cops and the New Jersey Blue now. So I'm kind of trying to find out, how often are you able to do the podcasting, and what is the topic, or is it a variety of things that involve law enforcement or other?
The Jersey Beat was my first podcast. And I talked about things happening in Jersey, got my teeth cut, so to speak, even before podcasting was popular. And then I did Tough Justice, which was with the magazine that I had been an employee of. And I helped develop that magazine's platform. And I was with them for a number of years. I was the managing editor, and I had a Women in Blue section. As part of that was an opportunity to do a podcast alongside the magazine called Tough Justice. And we did a lot of conversations about things that go on in life, legally, and how people get caught in circumstances. We talked about crime, true crime, and we talked about the work of the pastors in Newark, because I'm also a police chaplain. So it was really great to do all of that. And then that ended, and I decided I wanted to keep up with podcasting. So I did a year with Police Speak, where I interviewed police officers. And then I thought, as a prelude to the book, which is coming out very soon, I had an opportunity. My friend is the host of a radio station in New Jersey. He got in touch with me and he said, Donna, why don't you do the prelude to your book on my show? It's a radio show. He said, but it would be cool to have you for an hour every Thursday doing your podcast called Battered Blue. I told Al, I'm in. So it's not hard to convince me when it comes to speaking. So it's me for about 20, 25 minutes talking about some of the excerpts from my book, and then just giving some awareness and protection advice about why people stay, how to develop an escape plan, power and control, things that domestic violence is about. And then I relate that to myself and then to some other friends that I know. I interview them and then bring their stories in as well and do a parallel of why we stay, why women stay, and some of the things that led up to our departure. How did we decide when to leave and how did we leave? Because I think that's so important to let victims know that I may have stayed 37 years, but when I was ready to go, it was when my father nearly killed me for the second time. It was that that made me leave. And ultimately, my mother, who suffered from agoraphobia and then cancer, she stayed because she was afraid to leave the house. And I know that sounds ironic, but it is what it is. But the second time when he nearly killed me, she knew I wasn't coming back, and that if she stayed, she would have to stay on her own. And it was maybe 2 hours within that time frame that she left.
Wow.
That's
Just
tough.
tough stuff, yeah.
Stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
Mm-hmm.
And you say Battered Blue is coming out. You're going to be releasing the actual book very soon, right?
Yes, and as I always say to you, I have to be transparent about things because that's what recovery is all about. Recovering
Yes,
and
it is.
healing is about keeping it real.
Yes, it is.
Someone passed away, and then I knew it was time to release the book. It wasn't my father, it was a sibling. Because I didn't want to lie about anything in the book, nor did I want this person to be harmed by it, although they really didn't deserve my courtesy. I just say sometimes I go with God. And the book was delayed because of that.
Sherrie
But
and I were just speaking on something like that same thing about sometimes you reach a time when a certain book has to be put out.
yeah.
And
Yeah, so it's ready to go.
Yeah.
good. I'm looking forward to
think
reading
the
it.
title is awesome. I love it. The title. It's so fitting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But it is uplifting. I made sure that within the book, not a sense of humor, but a sense of redemption is throughout the book. And I do talk about really good times that turned into near lethality, because that's how it rolls a lot of times. Remember on calls, you go on calls as cops, you never think the family or the car stop or the investigation that you're doing is going to turn on a dime in a heartbeat. And then when it does, you have to be ready. And that's how I've lived my life. I was a cop before I became a cop because I was conducting an investigation of my father. I knew what bothered him. I knew what tweaked him. I knew when to hide. I knew when to cover because he had a playbook. He had a predator playbook. It was my mom's frailty that prevented me from really kicking his butt a number of times. I mean, I was a brown belt in karate. I mean, I was capable of harming him, but I knew that he would take it out on my mom. And then when I became a cop, we both had guns. Both had guns. And I'm not a hero, but I didn't want to be a zero either. You know, I'm not someone who loves to the ultimate degree in that respect. I mean, there's just a time when biological connections and how you've learned to love don't have meaning when you're being strangled nearly to death. You have to know when to fight back and how to fight back and how to survive. It's really that simple.
And that's you see with domestic violence, it's such a big thing that happens a lot, right? Especially what to do, how can a woman escape, how can they leave? And that's part of the book to talk about even someone in a specific situation that's very hard to get out of it.
No doubt. And I wanted to stay true to my trainer part of my brain. I wanted to stay true to what I learned as a trainer and seeing the impact that I had when I responded to calls, understanding the mentality of the manipulator and the batterer. They would all ask me, "How do you know? We've never been to this house before. How do you know who's telling the truth and the precautions that you take? Sometimes I think are over the top, but you're always right." And I would tell them, I have a really good sense of intuition.
Yeah.
You lived hyper vigilant for your whole
Oh,
life.
That's it. That's a perfect word. That's hyper and vigilant. I didn't realize until I was diagnosed with PTSD that I lived in that type of world all the time. That adrenaline world where you're going call to call, and we went on hot calls all the time, especially when I was with the county police. And at the time I was a county police officer, we backed up the city of Newark quite a bit. We were their backup and the other surrounding towns, but we went on hot jobs. Our cars were fired at in the parks. There was a lot of drug usage. That blue heroin era was in the 70s and the 80s, and it was on the job in the 80s. And the addicts were using all this junk, and they would kill in a heartbeat with their hands. I mean, not even a weapon. You go to a call, and I can remember one of these senior officers saying, when you go to a house call, always look up before you go into the house. And I couldn't understand what he meant by that. He said, always look up. I said, why? I said, because they'll throw a refrigerator out the top window at you when you're coming in the door. And I thought he was just being, I don't know, stupid about it. Maybe trying to offend me that I was a woman, that he didn't think I knew what to do. Until we got some calls to back up the Newark police in the projects. And I saw that stuff happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, TV, it's all, this learning curve I've had my whole life. This prevention curve that I've lived. Excuse me. It's not only saved my life with my dad, but with intimate partner relationships, because I picked the worst people to have as relationships, dating relationships, the worst. It was all that learned behavior that I had that nearly got me killed a couple of times too.
I guess then you go back to the hypervigilant when you're, in that situation again. That's just what you've been trained to be all growing up. Like you said, you were a cop before you were a cop.
Yes. And criminally good. I love the name of your podcast, because I hung out with all the criminals as a kid because I loved to dance Latin music. And I would go to the clubs and dance with all the criminals, the drug addicts, and everything. I don't know why they were the best dancers. Could never figure that out. And I knew that.
Know that.
Yeah. I knew that my father was waiting for me to give me a good homeschool beating. So I figured I'll stay out till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and just wait him out. So I'd go to the after hours. And when the Newark police were coming in one way, we were going down the fire escape. And I was going home, and I just knew that at 4 o'clock in the morning, the beating wouldn't be as harsh it would have been at maybe 1, because he was already tired.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
He would, throw a few punches, land them, and then, I'd go upstairs, help myself and what he did, and then go to bed. It was just a toxic, horrible living condition that I wouldn't wish on my best friend. I used to refer to my father as the devil in a suit because he would go to church and he would be God's child, and he would come home in that suit and be the devil.
Man.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Yeah.
you're an advocate for domestic violence victims. It's
Yes,
not just through your book. It's not just through Blue Force Films and some of the work you've done in creating films, which is I find that fascinating when somebody leaves the world of law enforcement and starts becoming a film producer,
Mm-hmm.
not just a memoir writer like myself, but really doing something interesting there. Um, what's on your plate right now in the advocacy world?
I get upset kind of on a daily lately with a lot of news media in general, internationally and here. And I think we're going backwards. And what I mean by that is that women should be believed when they say that they have been victimized sexually, emotionally, financially, all of those things, or bullied. They should be believed on a call when they say they have been sexually assaulted or abused in any other way, when the evidence does say so as well. And that women should be believed for their credibility and not villainized or re-traumatized or re-victimized. So I'm a big fan of trauma-informed response training for police officers. It used to be called victim-centered approach back in the day, and now it's trauma-informed response. So I get upset when I hear that a class action of women, which is evidence in itself, are saying similar things about a person or groups of people that have done horrific acts, sexual acts, and domestic violence perpetrated against them, and they're not believed, or that records that substantiate it are blackened so that names are not exposed. I don't care who you are, what power you think you have internationally on a domestic level, that you are not supposed to be held accountable or charged for your past or present deeds, criminal deeds. So I get upset by that because I know the trauma, the lifetime trauma. And so what I do now is I offer training courses. Most times I just do it for free for communities, marginalized communities. And I do train police officers about the trauma-informed response, understanding how to respond to calls, especially domestic violence calls. There's a protocol in place. The Attorney General's office has subscribed to that. The International Association of Chiefs of Police have said this is the gold standard, but it's not happening uniformly or nationally because there's no money that's being set aside for that, to bring in the top trainers to do it, to make the difference. And it's really just where we are in our society as a whole with funding. And that funding has been cut for advocacy groups. But yet these advocates still do their work. So I'm not producing a film, I'm just lending my knowledge and my curriculums where I can, especially with young people and human trafficking. Human trafficking is just horrific. I live in New Jersey, as you know, and we had many games played at the MetLife Stadium in New Jersey for the FIFA. And I saw some of the statistics that came out regarding how many victims were served and how many a round number of people that were saved. And kudos to the New Jersey and New York police departments, in general, all the task forces and everything. They did a great job. No matter what numbers they brought in, that's good, because there's so much that's underreported, not reported, misreported. And how do you control all of that just on a micro level? Because this is funded, as we all know, internationally. People are coming here to spend money to take advantage of people who, as I said, are marginal communities. That for whatever reason they are lured into those situations. It's not their fault. It's no one's fault, because consequences dictate certain times of your life that you may, as a person, be compromised to stay
Yes.
alive, or to feed your family. So that's what's on my plate right now. I get fired up. I yell at that TV some nights. I'm waiting for an answer sometimes.
Well, how can people find you?
Well, they can find me through my website, DonnaRomanHernandez.com, BlueForestFilms.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. So through my film work, I've gotten quite a bit of exposure to what I do. They call them copumentaries and not documentaries,
There you go.
because I do tell the stories of law enforcement. One of my films is called Cop Shot the Aftermath. Cop Shot the Aftermath. 3 of my colleagues throughout my law enforcement career were shot and nearly killed on the line of duty. So it's a story of 6 officers and how they survived, because it's important for other officers to know the red flags and how they did survive. And it's important for the community to know what's the aftermath of the shooting. What's the impact on the officer that survives, the family, and then the whole community? Because when a cop gets shot, the community is nervous that someone who is an authoritarian position within the community, who is armed and trained, gets shot. They're afraid too. Especially if the shooter's not found soon. So I wake up every day inspired. I have so much going on. Sometimes it's hard to sleep.
Okay.
I wake up and I write down things, and it's as if many times my mother taps me on the shoulder, kind of thing. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. We appreciate it, Donna.
Donna.
To
You're
find
welcome.
information on Sherrie, go to storehousemediagroup.com for all things publishing, ghostwriting, podcasting, and media. And then for Jennifer Clarke Eskew, purchase her book by going to jenniferclarkeeskew.com. Appreciate it, guys. That was the special Traumacast, the Neil Haley Show, the Storehouse Media Group podcast, and Criminally Good with Sherrie and Jen. Take care, guys.